Okay, we now welcome back onto the show, friend of the show, one-woman media force and host of the Sky News Friday show, Rita Panahi. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, you've had a big week and a bit. We wanted to get you on the show because you got thrown in Twitter jail. So do you want to tell us what happened there?
What did you do?
Oh, my Twitter ordeal, really. Amnesty International should get involved because my human rights have been abused.
You're a political prisoner at this point. We're harbouring
Basically, I've been persecuted and I think, I don't know, is there some sort of human rights commission I can take this to? Is there some sort of a... well, it was just so ridiculous. I woke up, usual sort of 6:30 and...
Usual, yep.
Usual.
yeah, definitely something we all do.
After a solid 3 hours.
What time did you say, sorry?
There's a 6:30 now. That's incredible.
In the AM, I know. It's wild.
Yeah.
Checked my emails and there's one from Twitter, your account's being locked was the expression. And I'm like, what? Locked? And as you know, I'm tweeting day and night, but I'm not, I don't use foul language. I don't, dox people. I don't, do anything that you would think would be questionable to get me blocked or locked up. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I looked and they sent me the tweet that they said was problematic that they wanted me to delete. And I was looking at it. It was a tweet about Linda Sarsour, the anti-Semitic leader of the Women's March in the US. And I'm like, there's nothing in here that's even questionable. I couldn't even remember the tweet. It obviously was sent a long time ago.
Where was it from, sorry?
Well, it was sent back in February 2017.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Suddenly now it's breaching Twitter's rules and I must be locked up. So I put an objection in and I said, well, I don't want to delete that. I don't know what I'm deleting. What's wrong with it? And it wasn't until one of a journo in the US looked it up and he looked up and saw what the attachment to it was, because when they sent me a copy of what they were objecting to, the tweet, it didn't have the attachment visible. So given it was sent back in February 2017, I have no idea what was attached to it. And what was attached to it was what got me into trouble. Is it was a screen grab of an abusive email I'd been sent. So apparently now if you share abuse you've received...
Yeah, then you committed the abuse.
then I'm in the wrong. So I saw that, I thought, I can't be stuffed dealing with these idiots. So I just deleted the tweet. I still had to serve another 12 hours suspension after deletion. It was just so ridiculous, really. I mean, you see lefties spew the most demented, ugly abuse, racial threats of violence or wishes of threats of violence I've seen up there without ever being deleted, without ever accounts being suspended. But conservatives I've held to a different standard. And I really do hope Jordan Peterson gets his act together and gets this alternate platform set up, so there actually is a choice for people where you not have to be on these massive platforms that have got this virtual monopoly, really. I mean, really, what's Twitter's competition? It doesn't have one. So, so it just shows you, this is the same Twitter that keeps saying, there's no bias, there's no political bias. Yet they let things like Massacre Mitch or Massacre Moscow Mitch trend, which is just a horrible thing to allow to happen on your platform. And then they get on their high horse about, we want to have a civil discourse and we don't want to have any...
Yeah, they go like, we blocked Farrakhan. Why are you angry at us? We blocked Farrakhan. We're clearly on your side as well. It's like, congratulations.
They didn't. He's still around. A guy who compares Jews to termites. That there's so many ugly accounts. Reza Aslan, who, was... talking about how punchable the Covington kids' faces were. Like that tweet's got thousands of retweets and likes, still up there, no deletion, no, suspension. So I just think it was just a silly little episode. And the crazy thing is that whole day, Free Rita, #FreeRita was trending.
Yeah, I saw that. It was
and
a
ended
national
up with
trend.
Thousands more followers. So, a bit of an own goal from the lefties. We're trying. Can you imagine how many tweets they would have had to bloody troll through to find that one to report me for, to try to get me suspended?
That's what I was going to ask.
There would be literally tens of thousands of tweets I would have sent in that time. You know me. I'm like, I tweet in my sleep.
Yeah, there's a lot of tweets about it's Slammer Cat before you get to that one. So I was going to say, like, had that tweet like blown up by any, like, had people come back to that tweet? Like, why was that the tweet that got you in trouble? Or is it just like, we can go with that?
I reckon some obsessive freak has sat there and gone through literally thousands and thousands of tweets, perhaps reporting a lot of them, but that one is the one that resonated with the good folk at Twitter. It's she has posted up abuse she's received. I mean, that's just unconscionable.
Yeah.
Really, get stuffed. I mean, as you know, with my stuff, you know, of course I'm fairly clear in what I think about issues, but, you know, half of my bloody tweets are cat videos and other stuff. You know, I love it all.
Yeah.
I'm sharing all sorts of content.
Yeah, so exactly.
Some of it ridiculous.
You do love to tweet a lot. Did you find that you had withdrawal syndromes? You're like, I want to tweet that.
That was so long. What I hated most was they wouldn't let me access my DMs. So for the whole 12 hours, they let me have access to my DMs for a bit. And then they blocked that. So I couldn't even look at my feed or look at my DMs. And I was getting all these DMs because people were then texting me going, you're not responding to that DM. You need to look at it. And I'm like, I can't see it. So it is weird, though. But you know what? I do have have periods where there's no Twitter, when normally my cruise ship periods where you just have to accept that, you know, stuff could be happening around the world and you're not aware of it and you can't say anything about it.
I can't accept that.
Well, now they've got satellite Wi-Fi on cruise ships. So
I thought that was a metaphor. You're actually on a cruise ship.
I love cruising. I'm the world's youngest cruise enthusiast. It's crazy because, you know, it's basically 70 plus age group who are into their cruising.
And Rita just...
And me and my son, we've done like over a dozen cruises. Love it. You get to go to lots of different places in one holiday without stuffing around with bloody airports and train stations. I mean, what's not to love about that?
Do you get off the cruise or are you just stuck on the cruise?
Oh, no. You've got to pick the itinerary. That's key, the ports you want to go to.
Yep.
And it's the perfect mix because, like, when you've got a port day, it's just hectic. You're trying to squeeze in as much as you can in a day, see as much as you can.
Yeah.
Port days, these are, you know, cruise terminology now. Stick with us.
Write this stuff down.
Yeah.
And then you've got sea days. So you might have a sea day between ports where you can just relax, just read a book and just actually have some relaxation as opposed to having that hectic activity during the port. It's the perfect holiday. I don't know why the young'uns, like you lot, aren't out there cruising.
I've been on a Kentucky trip, which is like, it's a cruise ship for alcoholics in their early 20s. So, like, we also have, like, bus days where we don't do anything and then port days where we run around.
That Kentucky thing always just weirded me out. I just thought, I just get images of, you know, needing Dettol, lots of Dettol. Just
I'm 25 and way too old for it now, but back 21-year-old me had a great time.
I reckon, if you're in that age group, it might be great fun. This has turned into a cruise ship
commercial. It has, really.
Basically. Can we get AAPT or somebody to sponsor this? Because frankly, I don't know why I'm doing this for free.
We should do this podcast from a cruise. How about that? Let's bring this back to.
So my Twitter turmoil where I was persecuted, and I'm going to take it to the Australian Human Rights Commission because it's outrageous. But really, it is so crazy to have this double standard that is just so obvious to anybody. Where if you're conservative, everything you say is held, scrutinised and held to a different standard than if you are from the left. I mean, you look at some of the high-profile feminist columnists we have, and the sort of just vitriol they spew online.
Yeah, we want to get into this.
If I did that once, I would be deplatformed from everywhere. Yeah, there would be nowhere I could be, whether it's social media, radio, print, TV. You just could not do that. But if you're off the left, that's okay. They're just being colourful. That's all right.
Well, it's like, so Alan Jones right now, like what's going on there? It's the comments that, I wouldn't have made, but also you look at like the reaction to his comments and then you look at someone like Clementine Ford who writes what she does on Twitter, and it's just completely different. Like who's losing sponsors.
The crazy thing is Channel 10 actually they gave Clementine Ford a platform to sit in judgment of Alan Jones to say enough is enough, he has to go. I mean, what credibility does this woman have who throws around the C word to any conservative, whether it's Miranda Devine, whether it's Pete Dutton, whoever it is, she uses this. ABC had to apologise for her use of the C word against a female columnist. She's thrown really ugly sort of racial abuse at me, talking about, you want to be a white man or something, which is just such a most twisted, perverted sort of mindset she must have to come up with that. And yet she sits in judgment of Alan Jones. Can you imagine if Alan Jones ever employed that language? I mean,
it's not just koala mattresses he'd be losing. It'd be literally everything.
Well, what I was shocked to find out was that Clementine Ford is a brand ambassador for koala mattresses.
Oh, really?
Someone showed me a tweet where she was talking about some free mattress she got when she moved into somewhere. So, that whole company seems to be pretty bizarre in its messaging. But anyway, but it's not just Clementine Ford. There's plenty of others who just aren't held to the same standard, who get gigs on our taxpayer-funded ABC. I mean, Clementine Ford, after Fairfax sacked her, or she split from them, she got a gig at the ABC doing several pieces. I mean, how does that work? How does the taxpayer broadcaster justify that? Or Benjamin Law, who, talked about wanting to hate conservative politicians who were against same-sex marriage. Jeez. Again, can you imagine if a conservative ever said anything even approaching that?
Yeah.
It would just be the end of their career. But not then. You just get another gig at the ABC. Why not?
So I'm keen to get your opinion on a few of these companies. What do you think it is that causes these big companies to just jump ship so quickly? Do you I've got this theory that there are social media HR departments that just run them. What do you think?
I think there's several reasons. One is corporates don't like controversy. They're allergic to it. So anything where, this could be bad PR, this could damage our image, this is, they go into crisis mode way too quickly, There is sort of a bedwetting phenomenon that Matt Canavan talked about overnight. Other problem is, you do have people who in HR social media areas who perhaps agree with the online mob, so they're more ready to listen to that message, and they see the words, the trigger words that sexism, racism, misogyny, violence against women, words of violence that can cause it. But I think an even bigger part is the fact that they're just not equipped to deal with this online mob phenomenon that we have, where there's a social media or where the engagement is fairly minimal. They might get a few tweets or emails, and then suddenly they're inundated by hundreds, and they panic. They think, oh my God, this must be a huge controversy. People out there must be absolutely outraged, not realising that it's a few dozen, activist idiots with multiple accounts who are well organised, who generate this outrage. And,
there's no way Sleeping Giants is more than 15 people.
Well, you remember they had their big march. They had their big march advertised, we're getting together, and there were more media there to cover them than there were. The pictures of them were pitiful. I put the pictures up myself on Twitter. I was like, look at this lot. This is it. This is, the giant.
It's like they can't really block Burke Street, but they can block one door.
Well,
and you can still get around them if you want to.
Well, Sky News commissioned some digital company, I can't recall their name, to actually have a look at the activity to see where these tweets were coming from, how many accounts were sending them.
Brunswick.
And well, one, it was a very, very small number of accounts that sent thousands of tweets to the advertisers. Overwhelming majority were fake accounts, or sorry, I shouldn't say fake, anonymous accounts. So, James, if you had 10 minutes spare, you could open up 30 fake accounts in that time.
And they all respond to the podcast tweets talking about how handsome I am. I'm very well versed.
Another 30.
They give this impression of, they represent the public because we've been inundated with hundreds of emails. The public must be outraged. The public, in most cases, could not give us stuff. And if you actually did question them on what people are outraged about, most of the time they'd say it's stupid and, they'd move on. So, but there is this gap, I think, still between corporates understanding this online mob phenomenon, how it works, and how to deal with it without wetting their pants and just, going, oh, well, we've just got to abscond and divorce ourselves from any controversy, because that is the price of free speech. You can't, and I think conservatives are not good playing this game, and I'm kind of conflicted about it, because you don't want to sort of lower yourself to the left's tactics. But I think sometimes we actually have to look at their playbook and look at how they do things and hold them to that same standard they want to hold us to, because otherwise it's a one-way street. So perhaps, conservatives can, if a company leaves, say, well, I don't want to give business to a company that doesn't support free speech. I don't want to give my business to a company that gives in to an online mob of a few unwashed idiots, and that's more important to them than the concept of free speech and a diversity of voices. Or, you could have conservatives, and I don't particularly suggest this happens, doing the same thing to the left. So when you do have this feral abuse that's so ugly and ugly, then deplatform them. You never see that, and I'm not a fan of it, because I'm not a fan of deplatforming people, banning people, but I'm coming around to the idea that it is not sustainable for this to be a one-way street. And perhaps if the left were affected by these tactics that they push, then they would be less enthusiastic about wanting to ban people, deplatform people, if they knew could also happen to them, that these rules don't just apply to your ideological opponents, they also apply to you.
Yeah.
So I just think I don't know how you do that without lowering yourself to adopting their tactics, but I think that there has to be some pushback now, because it's just getting too difficult for conservatives to have a platform. And you look at someone like Alan Jones, he is number one with a massive margin, has been for, God knows, more than 100 consecutive surveys. And for him to be losing advertisers because of, people who are way less successful than him are putting so much pressure on them to disavow and leave, it's madness. So they can't counter him and his arguments, so they're trying to eliminate the platform where you can reach people.
Yeah, I just go if the centre right does start doing the same thing that the left's doing, I can then see a future where no company supports anything slightly risky ever, and marginal voices never get backed.
I want to be clear, because I know there I kind of wasn't completely clear. I am against. I've never ever advocated sacking anybody, even when they've come for me personally. I've never advocated them being, banned from a university campus or sacked from a job, anything like that. But I have been thinking about, what can we do to counter this just phenomenon that exists now, where, even Jermaine Greer isn't welcome at university campuses because she's a TERF now. She's said some things that are anti-trans. So she's now problematic. So we need to actually have, and that's what I like about Donald Trump, and also what troubled me about him early on was that he actually employs the left's playbook, and they do not know how to deal with it.
Nothing.
He throws their tactics back in their face, and it works. It's effective. And I think, at some point, conservatives have also got to start caring about winning, not just playing by the by their own high standards.
Yeah, I get that too. All right, so we want to, we're running a bit long here, and you've been very generous with your time, but I did want to...
What time is... Oh, God, I'm going to be on 2GB in any minute
We're
now.
bigger than 2GB.
Just cut out the bits when I was hopelessly incoherent,
right,
which were about...
So
30
Rita, welcome
to 40%
to the show.
of the bits. But because I'm just thinking out loud here with this going after the feral left, it's thinking out loud, but I just think the way we've approached this culture war, ideological fight, whatever you want to call it, has not been smart. One, conservatives for a long time haven't even engaged in those wars, so the left have won, and what they think has now, the march through the institutions hasn't stopped at public institutions. It's now private institutions. You see the corporate virtue signalling all the time, and you know precisely where that comes from. So I think we've just got to be smarter in engaging in these battles. Otherwise, there will be no platform for mainstream conservative voices. If you're triggered by mainstream conservatives, then you're triggered by Australia. That is Australia. They speak. The reason why Alan Jones is number one and has been forever is because mainstream Australia likes him. The reason why Andrew Bolt is the most read columnist in the country is because mainstream Australia likes him. So if you can't even stomach mainstream conservatism, then there's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Rita Panahi, political dissident, freedom fighter, if you will.
Freedom fighter, yeah. So now, right after this, I'm just going to go and open up maybe, 200-300 anonymous accounts, and just try to get people sacked.
There's a bot you can do. I can show you how to do it. It's very easy.
I'm going to become a lefty in spirit.
Absolutely.
What a tagline. Rita becomes a lefty. We didn't expect that, but
we got there. That's all that matters. All right, Rita, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.